blesse mon cœur d'une langueur monotone. Je répète, blesse mon cœur d'une langueur monotone.
Hey everybody, dutchsinse here. 1:17 p.m. Central Time on Friday, August 21st, 2015. And I've got you over here on Professor Doom's channel. This is his backup channel. I give him a shout out for getting this out to the world. This is the first that I've heard of this problem, and let me just bring you up to date on what I'm talking about here. If you're a new viewer or you don't understand what we're talking about, there was a mining disaster where an old mine apparently broke forth its contents filled with water, toxic chemicals, and was spilled out into an area called the Animas River. And the Animas River feeds the Navajo Nation for water. In other words, it's the water source for the Indians who are living on reservations that have been delegated to them by the U.S. government over the course of how many, now, 150 years that the Indians were moved around. And finally they were put on reservations and granted their own national status to be independent of U.S. influence. And they got screwed. What happened? This Animas River actually flooded out. It put toxic chemicals throughout the water all the way down the river, and the people who live in the Navajo Nation were actually subject to outside water having to be brought in for them to give their animals, for them to use in their crops, and of course, for themselves. And the EPA was responsible for this whole spill to begin with, had water delivered to these nations. The nations themselves had to arrange for water to be brought in. Now, let me bring you over to the story, and let me tell you about what they found in the water. The water that was brought in, when they opened up the tanks, found out that it was oil-polluted, rusty, nasty water in these tanks brought to them. Now, guys, I left a comment down here below, and I've covered this for over 5 years. We've seen these before. Where have we seen these before? These aren't water tanks that anybody would normally use for any kind of drinking, crop, or animal watering. We've seen these before, and what are these? These appear to be fracking wastewater tanks. Frack tanks. That's why you're finding rust, chemicals, petroleum in these tanks, guys, because it appears to be, and I've covered this for 5 years, like I said. We've already gone over this. You can see these at multiple sites, even with the red stripe on the side. Now, you've got water tanks. You can use plastic water tanks. There's huge collapsible water tanks that can be used. There's no reason in the world to be bringing water. Look at this. Contaminated water tanks. They got a video on it here. Look at that. It's got sludge in it. They brought you guys fracking wastewater tanks. And again, fracking wastewater is highly toxic. The petroleum products are highly toxic. They're bad for crops. They're bad for animals. Anybody who'd bring you these tanks for water for yourselves or for your animals or your crops, man, I just, what can we say, guys? What can we say? This is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Whoever did it, I mean, they can't say it's a mistake. They filled them with water and brought them to a place that they know the people need water. And it's a fracking wastewater tank. Sure looks like it. Ah, look, filtered oil. There you go. There you go. And if you guys don't believe me, you can come back to any one of my fracking posts over the last 5 years where we zoom in and show the wells. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and show you. I'm going to show you real frack wells right now that had the same tanks. So, let's just go ahead and zoom in on Oklahoma or any one of these other fracking operators. We can go to Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, any one of them. Let's just go in on Oklahoma here. All right, and here's our frack wells. And just to show you what we're talking about here, okay, we've got our tanks. And let's go ahead and bring it in on a street level view, see what we can find. Well, There we go. There we go. How about that, guys? How about that? See the ladder on the side? Hold on. Okay. Here's our pipe apparatus coming down where the guy was sticking his hand in. They got it cut off right there. All right. Here's our ladder. Here's some smaller tanks, or wider, but the ones we're talking about are right here. Okay. And let's get back over to the Navajo Nation Facebook post. These are old ones, obviously. Okay, let's get this picture open so you can really see it. There you go. Here's our ladder. Here's your pipe coming off the side where he stuck his hand in. Now let's get back over here. Here's our ladder. Here's our pipe coming over where you stick your hand in. Painted black. Again, they color code these too. So you'll see white ones. You'll see blue ones. You'll see black ones. You'll see tan ones too. And we're talking about wastewater disposal. We're talking about toxic chemicals. There's no reason to deliver water to people in what looks like and is a wastewater fracking oil well disposal tank. There you go. I'm upset because people are seriously, their health is being seriously affected, possibly, by some, well, I don't know, what do you want to call it? You can't call it negligence. That's not negligent. That's deliberate. There's no way you could just deliver that and think that people would use that for your crops, your animals, for people to drink, their water sources cut off, and that's what gets delivered when the EPA... Oh, see, I have my suspicions about this gold mine, that it's most likely not a gold mine that broke free, that it was some kind of wastewater disposal well with millions and millions of gallons under high-pressure storage underground from a fracking operation nearby, or an oil pumping operation nearby. And that's what caused this Animas River spill. And these frack tanks being delivered with water in them to the people is just a hell of a coincidence. And that they're both related, that the frack water that we're talking about here in these tanks is the same kind of toxic water that got spilled out into the Animas River. And that it didn't come from a gold mine, it came from a pumping operation. Couldn't it be that could be possible? Yes, it sure could be. And I don't want to hear anybody tell me that it's not a possibility. Okay, so there you go. I mean, this is undeniable. Let's get it from this angle too. Again, take a look at it, guys. And you can even see the brackets on the back side of here, that if this was turned around the other side. Here, let's go. Let's see if we can see it over here. Nah, you can't. But you can see the brackets on the back side, at least coming up over here. Let's go back over to the Navajo Nation. Here's the brackets on the back side. Again, that's a stabilization to, of course, to hold it up and to keep it stable in case something happens. But, and for delivery too. That's how they drop them off. They load those onto the back of a flatbed truck. Shame on whoever brought them there. Shame, shame, shame. All around, shame. Just thought you guys would like to know. Much love. You know, guys, just to have to add this on to the end of the video, I went and pulled the area in question, found the Gold King mine, found the Animas River where it's going down into New Mexico out of Colorado south of Durango. And when you search Animas River, look where it takes you on Google Earth. Okay, I've already done a video on this location in the past. This is the location where the giant methane release is happening that NASA is studying. There's a massive release of methane coming out of this location. It's a huge fracking operation. Each one of these different square pads here is a different pumping operation. Oil, gas, injection wells, just like the tanks that they delivered to the Indians. Same thing. And you can see clearly this goes on for miles and miles and miles up here to the north of Durango, south of Durango, east of Durango, and I'm willing to bet there's some others back up here in the mountains that we just can't see or that I haven't been able to find yet. There may also be some upriver. And again, this is now, in my mind, a cover-up. That they really are trying to cover up the fact that the Animas River was completely flooded by fracking wastewater injection of fluids leaking out, just like the methane's leaking out, in a massive plume around the same area. And this is the area where there's a giant spill, quote-unquote, of wastewater. I'm going to tell the people down here now, you need to get that water tested in the river and compare it to fracking and oil pumping operation fluids. And you're going to probably find out, I'm willing to venture a guess, you're going to find out that that is related. And that's why they're delivering that fracking wastewater, oil tank water for you to put out on your crops and out across your land, so that you guys get it all confused and don't know where it's coming from, and then they have a cover for why that's in the water. That's most likely why they did it, guys. Look at the operation here. We're talking billions of dollars invested across this entire area, if not more. I mean, it goes on for 100 miles in either direction, all the way down here to the south, all the way to the west, all the way to the northwest. And again, you'll have to watch this full screen to get a good idea for the scale and scope of these operations that I'm talking about here. But every one of these pads is a different pumping operation. So I just thought you guys would get a kick out of that. I can't believe it. You know, I am glad I went and looked it up. Otherwise, we'd take their word for it that it's a gold mine. And, of course, the Indians aren't going to know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows to go look up on Google Earth and see what's back out in the back country that could also be going into the Animas River. And look what's right upstream. Okay? The biggest spot of disposal wells filled with toxic water probably in the United States, if not one of the biggest. Look how big it is. The entire Four Corners area down here south of the border. All right? Be safe, guys.